I'm Mike Smith,
And I'm Karen Smith.
and we're sitting here on land that was once a farm that my dad and some other fellows owned back in the 60s. That obviously now is the home of Lutheran Church of Hope and a place that's changed both of our lives.
I grew up in England. My family's still there, and I was here for a year as an au pair. And then I met Mike, and 2 kids and a dog. And 32 years later, here we are.
Kind of feels like when Harry met Sally. I didn't really spend much time out here until I think I was 12 or right around 12 years old. I wanted a second bike, and I had just gotten a bike, and my dad said, well, you don't need a second bike, but I tell you what, if you pay for it, I'll buy it for you and you can pay me back. And the way you're going to pay me back is by going out to the farm and walking the beans. And so I came out here, I'm not sure, 2 or 3 days, and my mother would load up some food and water and drop me off in the morning and pick me up in the afternoon, and I would walk 2 or 3 rows of beans. My dad probably could care less whether I was actually doing anything. The point was to try to teach me a lesson, I think. And after a couple of days, the bike went missing, and my dad let me off the hook. I'm not sure why, but that was the end of my bean walking experience. It might have been my junior year of high school. Myself and several friends decided to have a party at the farm. About 9 o'clock that night, my dad showed up because the person that lived in the farmhouse called my dad and said there was a rock jam happening on the farm. And by the time my dad got here, there were several hundred people at the farm. A day or two later, it came up that a farmer had put 2 cows on the land, but those cows were missing, and I was in deep trouble. And so we came out here, I bet, every day for a week or so, looking for cows, because this was the country back then. And I think it was maybe a week later, somebody called my dad and asked if he had some cows missing. And fortunately, those cows were found, and I was able to go to college.
So you were waiting until the cows came home?
I was waiting until the cows came home. Yeah.
I was going through some personal struggles. I'd had an eating disorder for a long time. I'd been in and out of treatment, and a friend of mine asked if I had ever prayed about it, and I did not. I had never. It hadn't even crossed my mind. I wasn't not going to church at the time, and I had felt for a long time that something was missing in my life, that I just had this hole that couldn't be filled. When I first started coming to Hope, so I would just meet friends on Sunday mornings, and then I did Alpha. I think it was the very first Alpha class that was offered here, and that was amazing. It was amazing.
Well, we were driving by, in fact, I still call it 74th Street, but we were driving down 74th Street, and we got to the corner, and I had heard that the Reeds, who had still owned the land, had sold land to a funeral home, and the church was just, I think it was out of the ground. I think it was not occupied yet, and I looked to my right, and I said to Karen, that is a very unusual-looking funeral home, and she said, well, it's not a funeral home, it's a church. And I said, well, how do you know? She said, because I go there. So that was my introduction to the Lutheran Church of Hope.
Then we moved into this location, and Ben was at KQ, and it was Ben's Christmas program, and Mike was not coming to church, and it wasn't something I pushed because I feel like your heart has to be open to it. And so I asked him, would you be willing to come to Ben's Christmas program at Hope? And so he did, and he has never stopped coming.
I was away from church until Karen invited me to go to Ben's program. I think it was the first time that I was here, and as I was looking up to the screens and reading the words, and the change was taking place in my heart fairly rapidly, actually. I happened to look out the window to the west, which now is not there because it's the bridge. I had this realization that this lesson that I was supposed to learn when I was 12 years old, I was actually maybe learning right now. And it just so happened that the sanctuary and the west parking lot at that time was exactly where I walked the beans. It was kind of like, I get it.
I I noticed in him that he was searching. And I think what he had been searching for, he was finding. He's a pretty laid-back guy anyway, but I felt like he was just finding peace. And the change that I saw in him, I didn't have to ask him to come back the following week. He wanted to come back the following week. So it was awesome. We came regularly. We both volunteered for VBS, which was amazing, and then got into a small group when the church did Purpose-Driven Life. And we've been with our small group ever since, and we've been through every season of life that you can go through, and they are amazing group of people.
God has gotten my attention in so many different ways, whether it be the sermons or experiences in VBS, or a very large impact on me has been men's ministry and just the men on Thursday mornings that I have grown to be brothers with. Jesus wants to change the way we think, and that requires you to learn from others. And so I've just been incredibly influenced by being involved with other men and being in fellowship with people here. Fellowship is the highest form of friendship. That it just plays such a critical role in my life, and I've seen the role it's played in other people's lives, and I'm just incredibly grateful for it. When I was a kid, my dad would come out here with his pickup truck, or a pickup truck. We didn't have one, he'd borrow one. And he would take black soil here and take it to the home that we lived in at that time on the south side, and then when they moved further west, he'd do the same thing. And so it was really ironic that this church that's gone, driven its roots so deep into the soil is that we got our black dirt from here, and it's helped my roots go deeper. There's no question about that. It is both metaphorically and absolutely good soil.
I had not volunteered for VBS the first year that he was here. And I remember standing in the back of what is now the bridge, and it was the closing ceremony. And I was so emotional because I'm like, oh my gosh, look at what is going on in this church with these children. I want some of that. And so my hope is for this giving campaign that we can be an outreach church, that we can reach far and wide, worldwide. And so I think we are both feel very blessed to be part of that.
I had a chance to listen to Lance Farrell talk about when he gave, imagine it was one of the first building campaigns. It was a building campaign for this church, and he was sharing what they had given, and it dawned on me just in that moment that gift that they had given 20 years ago had changed my life. The idea it kind of rocks me to the core. I don't know how you express gratitude for something of that nature.
We're so happy to be a part of this church, and just to see what God has done and continues to do and will do.
Couldn't say that any better.